hearing. Tonight, we do have a good number of bills on the agenda in each of our various committees, except for by county. Tonight, we are going to start with county affairs. But before we get there, I'm looking to have an individual lead us in prayer. Would someone volunteer themselves?
Mr. Vice Chair, I'll go ahead and take care of that if you won't.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Let us bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, watch over us, Heavenly Father, as we go through these trying times. Have us, Heavenly Father, to walk out of the end of this all safe, healthy, and happy. Watch over this delegation, Heavenly Father, as we do the people's business. In your name we pray, amen.
Thank you, Delegate Holmes. Again, tonight we will start with county affairs. But before we do begin, this is an opportunity for the public to speak and to have their voices be heard. Members, we have so much time to ask questions. We have our subcommittee structure as well as the larger standing committee. Of course, we can all ask questions, but just to be mindful that this is a public hearing for the public. So, Chairwoman Fennell, would you like to start us off with county affairs?
Thank you so much, Delegate Ivy. County affairs, we have the first bill, 413-21, Prince George's County tax sales limited auction. Delegate Barnes, can we, David, can you read the summary of the bill, please? David?
Yes. The bill requires a tax collector in the county to conduct a sale by limited auction prior to a public auction of abandoned property that consists of either a vacant lot or improved property that is cited as vacant and unfit for habitation on a house or building violation. If a certificate of sale for property purchase at a limited auction is void because the purchaser was not an eligible participant, then any right or interest of the holder of the certificate of sale is also void, and any payment received by the collector is forfeited and applied to any tax that are in arrears on the property. And Delegate Barnes, I believe, is going to speak to an amendment he plans on introducing in subcommittee.
Thank you so much. Delegate Barnes, I think you have two amendments that you want to speak about.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, colleagues and the public, for giving me the opportunity to speak on PG 413-21. This bill was originally intended of passing this legislation in 2017, was designated to bolster home ownership opportunities for the residents and those employed by Prince George's County. This bill was introduced in 2017 by our good friend, former Delegate Angela Angel. Unfortunately, it was later found that there was language in the bill that would undermine that intent to bolster home ownership for the residents and those employed by Prince George's County. This bill merely clarifies the true intention of what we sought out to do in 2017 when we passed this legislation. There are two amendments that are not before you that my office has filed, which further clarifies the language in the bill. On page 2, line 21 will be amended to say that employed by a federal government agency located in Prince George's County. And on page 2, line 23 will be amended to say a veteran of any branch of the Armed Force Services of the United States who has received an honorable discharge and is employed in Prince George's County. The designation of this limited auction prior to the general public auction was not intended to have out-of-state investors dominate the sale. The past tax sales saw one out-of-state bidder purchase almost all the liens in the limited auction. This results in undermining the Prince George's County residents. This bill is necessary to clarify and remedy the intent of the original legislation passed in 2017, and I ask for a favorable vote on this bill.
Thank you, Delegate Barnes. Delegation, do you have any questions of Delegate Barnes on Bill 413? And if you could just wave, okay. Having none, we're going to go to our witness list. We have County Council Member Mayor Franklin in support. So he's actually testifying as an individual. Is Mayor Franklin on?
I'm here, yes. Thank you, Delegate Fennell, and thank you to the members of the delegation. I want to thank Delegate Barnes for putting forth this legislation. He really summed it up well in the most recent tax sale. So this is essentially a tax sale before the tax sale that is sort of sheltered from the general public bidding, and it was supposed to be set aside for particular categories in order to reward those who are working here in Prince George's County. What happened was the language of the original piece of legislation was altered in a way that basically allowed a Chicago-based investor utilizing his veteran status to buy over 1,000 properties in Prince George's County, using the sheltered process that was supposed to be set aside for those who are living or working here in the county. And it was a gross abuse of really what the intent of this process was supposed to be. So Delegate Barnes, his legislation, in addition to, augmented by the amendments that he mentioned, the amendments actually are really critical because they'll really require that you either have to live or work in Prince George's County if you're going to benefit from what is essentially a sheltered process from the rest of the market. So I want to strongly, in my individual capacity as a council member, support his legislation. I believe it's in the best interest of the residents who live and work in Prince George's County. But thank you.
Thank you, County Council Member Mayor Franklin as an individual. We're going to go next to the next witness is going to be Ms. Parker. I don't have you down as support or oppose. So can you state which one before you start speaking?
Yes, ma'am. I'm in support of this bill. I think it's a very good bill in regards to just kind of echoing what County Council Member Mel Franklin said in relation to, and as well as Delegate Barnes, in relation to augmenting the bill that's already in place. We did have, when I discussed with other coalitions, we did have a couple of things that we wanted to say that could be amendments that we just wanted to put on record. Signage should be required to be posted in all entrances and exits of the property no less than 3 weeks in advance of the auction, with information clearly stated on who is eligible to participate, to ensure that even though this is a sheltered process, people are aware so they can actually partake in the sheltered process, as well as having the value of the liens visible. And then as well as the having land banks and land trusts should be able to participate, as well as any state employee that resides within Prince George's County and intends to continue to reside within Prince George's County, because we have a lot of state employees who reside within our county as well. Other than that, we think that this is a very good bill, and we offer and lend our support, me and my individual capacity and the coalitions who will send witness testimony later. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Our next witness will be Michael Arrington in support, Capital Connection. Mr. Arrington.
Good evening. I'm great, Delegate Fennell. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm appearing today on behalf of my client, Atlantic Realty Management, and we are in support of PG 413-21. The original bill applied to vacant and abandoned properties, and it was designed to provide home ownership to those who are invested in Prince George's County, and an opportunity to rehabilitate properties that were abandoned and vacant. The design of the limited auction prior to the general public auction was intended to prevent out-of-state investors from coming in and dominating the sale. And the past tax sale, as Council Member Franklin indicated, resulted in an out-of-state Chicago-based firm coming in buying over 1,000, essentially over 1,000 of the properties. So this bill seeks to clarify that, and so for those reasons, we support the legislation. Additionally, being a Prince George's citizen, I'm obviously very concerned about properties and people from the outside coming in and dominating the opportunity that should be preserved for Prince George's County citizens. So I would ask the delegation to favorably look upon PG 413-21, and thank you for the opportunity to testify this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike Arrington. As a reminder, I don't know if you saw the chat, Delegate Ivy wanted to remind everybody that it's 2 minutes. And thank you so much for the Bill 413. We're going to go to the next bill, which is 414, Prince George's County Public Safety and Behavior Health Surcharges, Behavioral Health Programs. This is Delegate Burns' bill. Can you read the summary, David, please?
Yeah. This bill renames the public safety surcharge to the public safety and behavioral health surcharge. Under existing law, the governing body of the county may impose a public safety surcharge on a new residential construction for which a building permit was issued by the county. The bill prohibits the surcharge from being imposed if a preliminary plan for the residential development was approved on or before July 1st, 2005. In addition to other uses, the revenue collected from the surcharge may now be used for 1, the operation of behavioral health programs offered by the county, or 2, the construction or rehabilitation of behavioral health program facilities in the county.
Thank you, David. Delegate Burns is stuck in a HGO. We do have one witness, that's Ms. Parker. We do not have you down as support or oppose. Ms. Parker, before you start speaking, can you state which one?
Yes, ma'am. I'm in support of this bill along with several other coalitions, specifically PG Changemakers. We did want to ensure that other variables are considered in regards to this bill. One amendment would be to remove the purchase of weapons or body under this fund, because right now that revenue from this fund can go to that. It can go to the purchase of weapons or body armor. So an amendment to remove that ability. Also, the behavior health services funded by this revenue must receive best practices from the Maryland Black Medical Association and the Maryland Latino Medical Association, or similar organizations, because that is the predominant population of our county. And just so I can make it under 2 minutes, other services would include services for people who have with medical assistance or no insurance, specialty services for children, adults, and the elderly, locating outpatient treatment services, locating case management services, locating residential treatment services, locating medication-assisted treatment for substance use disorders, accessing crisis services, purchasing psychotropic medications in special situations, identifying support groups, peer and family recovery supports, housing options to include residential rehabilitational programs for individuals with mental health illnesses, and information about advocating for your child's behavioral needs and training opportunities. As this is being streamed live and recorded, obviously Delegate Barron can come and see the different things that we'll offer, and we will offer our amendments in written testimony as well to the delegate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Parker. Ending with Bill 414, we're going to go on in reference to Bill 414, we're going to go to 415, Prince George's County Payment in Lieu of Taxes Agreement, Low Income Housing County Executive Bill, and we have Angie Rogers.
Good evening. So Angie Rogers, I'm the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Economic Development in Prince George's County. Good to be here with all of you. I think I joined the county at the end of your last session, so good to be with you. I am here today to urge support for 415-21, an amendment to the payment in lieu of taxes agreement for low-income housing. In 2019, we completed our comprehensive housing strategy, which set forth a year plan to serve the housing needs of all county residents, both current and future. From 2010 to 2018, almost 3,000 units of housing countywide has been supported by the use of pilots. And we utilize this tool to produce and preserve affordable housing units that have been invaluable to the county. We've seen rents and home values increase substantially since 2000. So this makes our preservation efforts more important. The proposed amended language seeks to expand the permitted uses for pilots in the county. And key to this would be helping us to work with projects that might be acquisition heavy transactions. So not just new construction or substantial rehab. We envision that this kind of expansion of the program will allow us to work with targeted prospective owners and operators in areas around the Purple Line, in Suitland and Largo, other inner Beltway neighborhoods that have targeted for transit-oriented development expansion. We're working actively every day to increase opportunities for affordable housing. So your favorable consideration of this measure will give us another tool to continue to try and do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have Ms. Parker. Young, can you state whether support or oppose? You're signed up again.
Sure. I oppose this bill. On its face, the language of the bill in regards to the title gives an impression that's not actually accurate to the language of the bill itself. This legislation will lower the cost of owning the property that has rent subsidized tenants, but not necessarily lowering the cost of housing for said tenants. This legislation will likely result in increased amounts of low-income housing without reducing the cost of housing. Pilots reduce property tax income without necessarily increasing other sources of revenue. This legislation will necessitate either property tax hikes, service cuts, or other measures to fix the budget gap. This only has to remain a low-income housing property for 5 years. The pilot doesn't say if it continues after this period. I would also like to cite that the county's continued practice of allowing multi-million-dollar developers and others like us to receive payment in lieu of taxes robs the county of much-needed revenue to support programs for its residents and opens the door to call for increasing taxes on already overburdened homeowners. If they can pay donations to campaigns, they can pay taxes.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Okay. Okay. Any questions from the delegation in reference to this bill, which is 41521? Having none, we're going to move on to the next bill, which is going to be 416, Prince George's County Public Ethics Definition of Application. This bill was introduced by the chair of the county council. We have a summary that's going to be read by David. David?
Sure. Prince George's County Public Ethics Definition of Application. The bill alters the definition of application in the public ethics law to exclude participation in adopting and approving a countywide zoning map amendment that is recommended by the planning board and approved by the district council, where the intent is to implement an approved general plan by repealing and replacing all zoning categories applicable to land in the county. The filing of an application by certain applicants triggers certain requirements and prohibitions with respect to making payments to county public officials and candidates for office.
Okay, thank you. We have Andrew Rogers, County Councilmember Todd Turner, Elizabeth Hewlett from Maryland National Capital Park and Planning. Are we gonna go? We're gonna go in that order, and then we have David Harrington, all in support. So,
Sure.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Delegate Fidel, I think I was scheduled to go first.
oh, yes, okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, they had you, okay, thank you.
Thank you. I don't want to put
Thank you.
Ms. Rogers on the spot.
That's fine, that's fine.
Well, good evening, Chair Fennell, members of the delegation. A pleasure to be with you. Hope everyone is well. Before you have PG 41621, obviously a local bill that's being supported by the Prince George's County Council, Prince George's County Executive, and the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission to ask for a clarification of the state law with respect to our conclusion of the almost 6-year zoning rewrite process that we initiated after adoption of the last general plan in 2014 called Plan 2035. For those who are familiar, back in 2014, we adopted the general plan And then we moved to work with the Park and Planning Commission, hiring consultants, engaging in stakeholder outreach in order to update our 50-year-old zoning and subdivision ordinances. As a result of that process, the Park and Planning Commission did submit a draft legislation to us. In 2018, the County Council undertook a year-long review of that. And I know Delegates Lehman and Delegate Harrison were intimately involved in that process that year as well. And we adopted the new zoning ordinance and subdivision regulation as the first phase of our zoning rewrite. The second phase is to rezone literally all of Prince George's into the new zoning categories. We reduced the zoning categories from over 70 down to just over 40. And so this process is a comprehensive process, countywide process. It's not an individual property process. And so in order to clarify that we're able to proceed with that, we were initially scheduled to do our joint public hearing back in March of last year. Obviously, COVID-19 delayed that. And then we tried to reschedule a virtual hearing after getting opinions that we could move forward within a virtual environment. And then we saw that there was potentially a legal question with respect to moving forward with the joint public hearing. Therefore, we've submitted this legislation for your consideration and hopefully your favorable recommendation. And so we are joined by other speakers, so I'm not going to take long, but we're here to answer any questions for you if you have them. But this is extremely important for us to conclude this process. We've done it twice before unsuccessfully. This is the farthest that we've gotten along for updating our zoning ordinance, and it will put us in a competitive place in the region, even though we continue to try to dwell on that and improve our situation. So with that, Delegate Fennell, I'll concede and move on to my other colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to add that there's a lot of support from the County Council, and we're going to move down to Angie, and then from Angie Rogers, we're going to move to Elizabeth Hewlett.
I think I'm supposed to be next.
Okay, they have you out of order, but go ahead if you're next.
So thank you, Chair Fennell. Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Hewlett, Chair of the Prince George's County Planning Board and the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. It's such a delight to see everyone, some old friends and new friends. It's been a long time. I'll try not to be repetitive as Councilman Turner has done such a spectacular job. But this zoning rewrite and countywide map amendment attempted twice before, but allowed to die a slow death, has been a Herculean effort on the part of our planning staff, the planning board, the county council, and our stakeholders. Currently, we have an antiquated AARP eligible ordinance with conflicting, outdated, confusing, and redundant provisions as a result of 50+ years of piecemeal amendments. Well, AARP is a beautiful thing for some of us, but not for zoning ordinances. And that with the passage of time have come to create confusion and uncertainty, hindering our beloved Prince George's County's opportunities for economic development. So now we have a long-awaited and exciting opportunity to redress this problem and raise the bar in Prince George's County, leveling the playing field and making us more competitive with the surrounding jurisdiction. The unity that you see here today, the two branches of government, the business community, the Coalition of Smarter Growth, and our bi-county state agency punctuates the need for this, for us, Prince George's County, to move forward as other jurisdictions have, with a streamlined 21st century user-friendly code and CMA that reduces our currently ridiculous 73 zones down to 43 in common sense groupings. And for the record, our public engagement process has been phenomenal. 3 countywide mailings to over 400,000 people, addresses rather, held over 379 meetings with an array of stakeholders, nearly 20,000 website visitors on this topic alone, and nearly 43,000 email exchanges, and more than 30 county council work sessions and hearings. So stated plainly, the clarification that we seek today is specifically and solely for this government-initiated countywide CMA process and not for any individual applications. And we thank you for your consideration and your time.
Thank you, Betty. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we go down to Angie.
Finally.
You ready?
Yeah, thank you. So Angie Rogers here again, Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Economic Development for the county. And I'm here to express the administration support for this legislation. As has been stated by others, the county zoning ordinance is old. And this is a needed update that's been several years in the making. It becomes even more important as we look toward what will eventually be a post-COVID world, in which our efforts will shift away from managing a pandemic to recovering from it, and hopefully doing so stronger than we were before. Updating our zoning ordinance and bringing the county into the 21st century in this area is critical to our economic recovery from COVID. And it's, critical to ensuring that we unlock the potential that we have count. Prior to the pandemic, we led the state in job creation for 6 years. As we recover, I'm confident that we're going to return to and surpass those levels. We need to ensure that we have a zoning ordinance that allows us to develop the county in a smart and a strategic way that meets the demands and the requirements in today's world. For all of those reasons, we support this legislation, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Angie. Do we have David Harrington? Is he on? If not, he did send a lot of support.
I am, Madam Chair.
Oh, okay, David. Okay.
I am. I was on mute. Thank you,
It's
Madam
okay.
Chair, for allowing me to be on this bill, and also Vice Chair Ivy and to others of the delegation. Thank you for allowing me to speak today.
You're on mute.
There we go.
Okay.
I come to this space not only as President and CEO of the Prince George's Chamber of Commerce, but also as a former county council person who was steeped in land use for over 8 years. And I can tell you, I can attest to what Chair Hewitt has said and others, because we attempted to try to change the zoning ordinance and certainly change part of it, but was unsuccessful. I was also on the group, the task force that also initiated this zoning change. And I can tell you this is very, very long overdue. And I am delighted to see now the zoning rewrite. I support the zoning rewrite, have been part of it, and certainly support PG 41621. We're seeing a region right now that is highly competitive. In Northern Virginia and Washington, DC, they have made augmentations that allow for accelerated business to come to their areas. And while we are the epicenter, I believe, of development, our antiquated zoning system makes it less of an appetite to have any kind of investment in Prince George's County. And so this is long overdue. And then what a new CMA would do 3 things. One, it would create a land use process that's more friendly, simpler. It reduces the zones tremendously. It promotes development to targeted areas. So I'm delighted to be chair of the Redevelopment Authority, and I'm not speaking on their behalf, but I would tell you that for infill land development, if we have this kind of zoning process, then that would accelerate the kind of equity that we can have in all neighborhoods in Prince George's County. And number 3, then there's been much investment around this, and we will see the conclusion of this investment. So the chamber urges a favorable vote on PG 11621 and looks forward to working with the delegation and others to bring businesses and jobs to Prince George's County. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, David. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We have 2 opposition. In this order, we can have Tamara Davis Brown. Is she on? Tamara?
Yes, I am. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
The camera on. For the record, Tamara Davis Brown, I'm a resident of Clinton, Maryland, and I serve as the legislative chair of my chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I'm also the chairman of the Legislative Agenda Committee for the statewide Maryland chapters. I'm writing on behalf of myself and the 176 members of my chapter, the majority of whom reside in the 23rd, 25th, 27th, and 26th legislative districts in the county. Our chapters serve Fort Washington and surrounding southern Prince George's County areas. I'm testifying in opposition to 41621, a bill to modify the definition of application concerning public ethics laws. Contrary to the testimony you heard before, this bill is not about the countywide map amendment. However, it is about ethics. And last year, the delegation voted to approve legislation that would allow the county executive to receive campaign contributions from developers. In doing so, you rejected a friendly amendment that I offered to exclude slates with the county executive that would include county council members, even though they have direct oversight of decision-making authority of developers. I agree wholeheartedly with Chair Hewlett that the countywide map amendment is necessary. However, I disagree that the ethics bill should be modified to continue to allow county council members who may appear on a slate and indirectly receive campaign contributions. Yes, we definitely do need to move forward, but however, we need to make sure that we do not have even the appearance of evil. We should know that one of the reasons that we could not move forward with this, as the past chair of the county council has stated, is because they could not have a quorum. They could not meet a quorum because the majority, if not all, of the county council members had already received campaign contributions from developers. Therefore, I urge the delegation to vote this bill down and oppose it, or at a minimum, modify so that the bill that was introduced and passed last year would exclude slates that include county council members that approve these types of applications. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We have the next witness going to be Ms. Parker. Ms. Parker, you on?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I just want to reiterate what Mrs. Tamara Davis Brown just said. This, contrary to what is being put out with the previous testimony, this is not about rezoning. And we all in Prince George's County want rezoning. It's just the way that this bill goes about allowing it. The issue is a quorum cannot be met on the zoning updates because 6 votes are needed, and the county council doesn't have 6 votes because most of them have received developer funding. What is the benefit to the county residents in allowing legislators who have received developer donations to set the zoning requirements for our county? And then why is this bill being pushed immediately on the heels of legislation that expanded the ability to raise developer funds for the county executive? This is just a no. It's the way that it's being done is a no. This bill is an ethics issue. We literally just passed a bill that allowed the county executive to receive money from developers, even on a slate. And one of the many reasons that were put out in the Washington Post article that she wrote and the Maryland Matters articles that were put out there was that, look, it's okay. It's okay. We're going to pass this bill because the county council will not receive developer fundings. The people who have the actual power to zone and allow applications, they're not receiving the money. So that makes this bill to allow her to receive developer funding okay. So y'all went ahead and passed that. And now you're coming back and saying, oh, dang, y'all, listen, we need to go ahead and pass this one too and allow them to get developer funding so that we can pass the zoning laws. They knew when they were doing this whole process that they could not have a quorum because they'd received too much developer funding. It seems like a bait and switch. Now you're getting this push that, hey, we really, really need this rezoning for the economic growth of Prince George's County, which I do not deny. But the way that it's being done sets up the county to be sold out to developers again. And it just seems like a huge bait and switch. So this is going to be a no. It's going to be a no from me as a resident and several other coalitions who will provide their testimony, again, written in opposition of this. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Is there any question from the delegation?
Ms. Fennell, excuse me.
Yes.
I thought Ms. Cheryl Court had signed up as well.
Let me check. Hold on. Yes, she did.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much.
Chairman Fennell, can I speak now?
Yes, you can.
Great, thank you so much. Good evening. Thank you, Chairman Fennell, and good evening, members of the delegation. My name is Cheryl Court, and I'm testifying on behalf of the nonprofit Coalition for Smarter Growth. Our mission is to promote walkable, inclusive, and transit-oriented communities and the land use and transportation policies and investments needed to make those communities flourish. We're pleased to provide our testimony support of PG 416-21. This bill provides the legislative adjustment needed to complete the long-awaited Prince George's zoning rewrite. Prince George's has a unique ethics law that stripped up the CMA, and it is the last step for implementing the zoning rewrite process. This ethics law doesn't exist elsewhere in the state, and Montgomery County, Baltimore City have already updated their outmoded zoning regulations, and we hope that Prince George's will soon be following. Over the course of several years, we worked with stakeholders and community activists to engage in the public process to update the county's outmoded zoning and subdivision regulations. And we advocated for the adoption of these modernized regulations through various public forum and hearings with the county council. We made this a priority because these updated regulations will be a significant advance for the county, and they're worth the effort of removing old and cumbersome and obsolete county regulations that we think are holding the county back. My written testimony lists a number of ways that the zoning rewrite will help the county. Specifically, I just note that the updated zoning will greatly improve the county's ability to guide quality transit-oriented development, something that we all share a value of wanting to advance. So we urge the delegation to support this bill. We believe implementation of the zoning and subdivision rewrite is a tremendous improvement for the county and for the community, and is really a once in a generation opportunity. If we don't do it now, this is going to be lost for a decade or more. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We do have one more person sign up. Help me with your name. Is it Suchitra? Suchitra
Balachandran.
Thank you. Okay, you can go ahead. Thank you so much. And she is in opposition. Okay.
Thank you. I'm Suchitra Balachandran with Our Revolution Prince George's, here to express strong opposition to this process. The way it is, it is described to me is this is something that is banned at a retail level that we now want to conduct at a wholesale level. So when we have single text amendments and changes in zoning on the council, the developer, the council members are all supposed to report the monies that they have received from this developer, and if they so choose, they need to recuse themselves. And it turns out that when we're doing a large zoning map amendment, that does not apply at all. And so this is a problem for transparency. This is a problem for us, especially when you also cancel the public hearing. So the public has basically no place to actually express any opinion on this. And it's simply going to be rubber stamped through. And the only entities that it would really benefit are commercial developers who have probably already contributed in some form to either the council members or to slates that they belong to. So on that score, on the score of transparency and the need for the council to be accountable to the public, we strongly oppose this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there any questions from the delegation to the county council?
Delegate Fennell, Delegate
Yes.
Lehman is raising her hand.
Okay, thank you. Delegate Lehman.
Thank you, Chair Fennell. So I am concerned by what I hear about this bill, and it does in fact sound like it is more of an ethics bill than a zoning rewrite bill. I don't think we have time to get into a back and forth with the proponents of this, but I'm very concerned about the intent of this bill. I guess my most direct question is going to be for whoever thought to bring this forward in February of this year as a late filed bill. Why didn't you know you needed this before? What changed? If somebody could please address that. That alone gives me pause. Given what you're saying you're intending to do with this bill, I would really like to know why someone didn't realize you needed this sooner and there was not more discussion and transparency about what this bill is really after.
So Ms. Lehman, I'll try to answer that as best I can. The reason for the lateness of the bill, we do appreciate the delegation for allowing it to go forward to this point. It wasn't until discussions at the rescheduled November joint public hearing between the Park and Planning Commission and the County Council that the issue of the state ethics law came up. We actually did reach out to both the State Ethics Commission, which has responsibility for enforcement of the state ethics law, in order to see if the issue could be addressed administratively. I understand they do have a copy of the proposed legislation and are reviewing it, and we'll comment on it from what I understand based on some of our staff conversations with them. So the reason for the lateness was we didn't know until the implementation of the legislation. Obviously last year, because of COVID-19, we went straight into emergency operations. And so when we had to cancel the in-person public hearing, we kind of put everything on hold in order to operate, as you can understand, as you're doing now. So it wasn't until the November meeting where we discovered that because of the interpretation of the state law, that we thought there would be an illegal issue. And so we wanted to seek clarification of that. And the best way to do that, even though we did reach out to the State Ethics Commission, was to make it clear in state legislation that this limited process, and I have to clear up this, unfortunately, some misinformation that was provided. This is only limited to the purposes of this countywide map amendment process. Every other requirements of the state ethics law still apply for applications for anybody who wants to do something with their property. The difficulty here is we have over 300,000 properties in Prince George's County. And because of the requirements of the state ethics law, if anybody, whether it's Joe Schmo, my neighbor, or anybody else, and let me be clear, we cannot accept developer contributions under the state law as it currently exists. And we're not asking that to change whatsoever. But
Mr. Turner, everybody is not Joe Schmo. Joe Schmo Citizen is not a developer. So I guess we could have that conversation later.
Sure.
Offline. I am just very concerned. I don't know how else to characterize this except that, this strikes me as whatever that old adage is about, a wolf in sheep's clothing. I think it really does not come off well. It raises all kinds of red flags with me. I'm going to leave it at that. I would like to, have a conversation with Chair Barron about, maybe a further discussion in full committee rather than have this discussed and debated further in Delegate Fennell's committee, which I believe all of our committees only have 6 members. I don't think it's going to serve the delegation well, but that's my, thank you.
Delegate, we're going to keep it in the County Affairs Committee. That's what was assigned to, and then we will talk about it offline. Thank you. Thank you.
And we're more than willing to speak to any of the delegation to give you more.
Thank you. Thank you. Chair Ivy?
Thank you so much,
Chair
Madam
Ivy,
Chair.
Chair Ivy, this ends the County Affairs bills for tonight. Thank you so much. And Delegate Mary Lehman, we'll talk offline and we'll talk with Chair Barron also. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes our County Affairs docket. Moving on to Education, Chairwoman Proctor. Delegate Proctor.
Delegate Proctor, you're muted.
Thank you very much, Chair Ivy. We have one bill under the Education Unit tonight. It's HB 50621, Prince George's County Board of Education, student member voting and member candidacy. And if I could ask David to give a summary of that bill at this time.
Certainly. This bill grants full voting rights to the student member of the Board of Education for Prince George's County Public Schools. However, the bill does provide an exception that the student member may not vote on matters relating to teacher and administrator disciplinary matters. The bill also repeals a provision prohibiting members of the Board of Education for Prince George's County Public Schools from being candidates for public office while serving on the county board, other than candidacy for a position on the county board.
Thank you very much. We have We have about 13 speakers tonight, and I'd like to start with Christian Hayes. Is Christian Hayes here?
Yes, ma'am, I am here.
Okay.
Good evening, members of the
Delegate Proctor, do I get to say something about the bill or no? It's
Well,
up to you.
I was gonna let after the.
Perfect. Okay, just want to make sure. Just want to make sure. I know Delegate Barnes were able to speak on the bill that he had, so I want to be like Delegate Barnes when I grow up. So,
Okay. Christian.
May I speak?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Good evening, members of the delegation. My name is Christian Hayes, and I'm a Prince George's County student residing in Maryland District 25. Tonight, I come before you to express my support for the proposed bill PG 50621, student member voting and member candidacy. In America, as you all are familiar, the people are represented fully by officials they elect. Yes, ma'am? Can everyone hear me?
Okay, yes. Go ahead. Did we lose you, Mr. Hayes? Well, I'm assuming he's having technical difficulties, so I can come back to him. Joshua Omala? Joshua here? Let's move on then to Relene Del Campo.
I'm here.
Okay,
May I begin?
please.
Good evening, delegates. My name is Raylan Del Campo, and I am a junior that currently serves as the Executive Board Vice President at Parkdale High School. I am here today to discuss an issue that has been salient to the students here in Prince George's County, and that leads us to the bill PG 506-21. Some may say as students, we do not have the experiences to make the decisions for our own selves. However, it is unfair for the student member of the board to not vote for what is mainly for the discretion of students in Prince George's County. How is a student member of the board able to gain experience attending board meetings when he or she is not able to vote? The student member goes through the election process in order to gain this privilege. When making decisions, specifically school closings, reopenings, and boundaries, capital and operating budgets, and student disciplinary decisions, it is imperative to have student representation and set decisions to convey a message that the future of students is not single-handedly left in the hands of adults who are not 100% relatable when speaking on student impacts in the education system. There have been a myriad of instances where the students' opinions were not taken into consideration because it was our parents' decision to make them for us. It may be reasonable for parents to take part in their decisions. However, the student member of the board represents the students at the hands of the board. With that being said, thank you for allowing me to advocate for not only small full voting rights, but for the students as well. I hope you consider my testimony, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll move on to Alvaro Cerrón Ruiz.
Thank you. Good evening, esteemed delegation. My name is Alvaro Cerrón Ruiz, and I'm a sophomore at Eleanor Roosevelt High School. I currently serve as the treasurer for the Maryland Association of Student Councils. Today, I'm here to call on to all of you to vote in favor of PG Bill 506-21. For too long now, the student voice has been neglected and overlooked. Being in student advocacy these past 3 years has only affirmed this disparity. Though it is said that the best interest of the students is always in mind, it has not been reflected to its fullest in this county. You see, if the best interest of the students was in mind, then why hasn't the student gotten a proper seat at the table? Youth are told time after time to be more active and get involved, but then we get involved and we're treated as children, as people who cannot be trusted to give their input on whether the county continues funding their program, input on disciplinary actions that only feed into the school to prison pipeline, input in funding for more mental health resources for us all. Yet we're told to get more involved. I say all this because it is truly disheartening that those before us do not believe that we are capable of doing more. And I of course acknowledge that not everyone believes this way, but it is the message that is given when the Prince George's County student member of the board is not allowed more voting rights to fully represent the 131,000 students in the district. So today, I ask you all to allow this bill to pass. Not turn your face from us, but walk with us, guide us, and lead us to one day be like you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ahmad Curtis.
Oh, good evening, everyone. Hope everything is well. My name is Ahmad Curtis, and I attend Bowie High School, currently as a sophomore. I testify in support of PG 506-21. This legislation is significant to the whole student body of Prince George's County. The student member of the board is supposed to represent 130,000 plus students in this county and serve as a student perspective on the Board of Education. Currently, how is the student member of the board going to fulfill that mission statement without majority voting rights? Leaving only adults in charge of the decisions that impact students is irrational. Putting a student on the Board of Education barely with any powers is senseless. As a student in Prince George's County, I need to feel like I'm heard. The 130,000 students need to feel like they're heard. This is why we elect a student member of the board to make our voices heard for decisions that directly impact us. If the student member of the board doesn't have majority voting rights, this leaves only adults in the hands of how students and the community around them are carried out. This makes most of the decisions made for us biased, coming from a group of adults who are elected and appointed by other adults. Students have been looked down upon and for many years now, and now that we finally have someone to represent us, they barely get any power. I hope to believe that the Board of Education is supposed to ensure the conditions of the staff and students in PGCPS. But how exactly are they going to do that without considering the student perspective? Young leaders in student governments come together and put all their trust into a student serving as a board member, hoping to see things get done. It's only one student alongside 13 adults, still leaving that one student without majority voting rights. It's not fair. Therefore, this is why it's so crucial to support this bill. And thank you for allowing me to advocate for myself. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yossid Jones.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Yasir Jones, and thank you for giving me the ability to speak this evening. As you all know, Bill number 506-21 is being put to the table. For our future SMART members and the future Prince George's County students, why can't our SMART member vote on budgetary items, personnel matters, with the exception of disciplinary matters, school closings, school reopenings, and school boundaries? This is majorly important because as a student residing in Prince George's County, the student member of the board representing around 130,000 Prince George's County high, middle, and elementary school students, it is known for our representatives in the small position to work for the welfare of Prince George's County. The future SMART member should be able to vote on budgetary items, personnel matters, disciplinary matters, school closings, school reopenings, and school boundaries on behalf of the 130,000 students. If we have a student board representing 130,000 students, there should not be a reason that some of the most important structures of the county schools are not acknowledged by the student member of the board that views the 130,000 opinions and acknowledges the feelings, the facts, and the myths of Prince George's County. For the future growth of Prince George's County, the students that attend the schools should have that aren't passed by our SMART members is an indirect representation, but that Prince George's County doesn't support students' well-being and the day-to-day life of students of Prince George's County. Bill number 506-21 should be viewed at the student's perspective and of course our delegates' perspective to apply the formal structure of Prince George's County budgetary items, personnel matters, with the exception of disciplinary matters, school closings, school reopenings, and school boundaries. We Prince George's County students should be directly supported in the result of Bill 506-21 being passed. We don't want it, we deserve it.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Thank you. Ms. Parker, Chana Parker. Ms. Parker?
Jana. Yes, I'm here. It's Jana Parker. It's Jana. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Proctor. I wanted to speak in support of this bill. I think it's imperative that the students of Prince George's County have a vote that is equal or majority power to speak and make decisions on their own behalf. I think it is a testimony to see how many young people are on this call right now advocating for themselves and advocating for their voice. And I think that is imperative for our delegation not to ignore them. Also, I would like to point out that in regards to this bill, the other point of it is that the current rules regarding school board members to resign if running for higher office, that does not exist for any other position, and it's thoroughly unfair and undemocratic. This legislation would fix that issue. A lot of times that we see that we talk about, this is the most important board, I think, in Prince George's County, right? And then we see a lot of decisions that are being made on this board impact Prince George's County on so many different levels. Why wouldn't there be an ability for the people that make these decisions to run on a fair playing ground like everyone else who is on this call? That doesn't seem fair or appropriate. And this bill seeks to remedy that. Again, I offer my support for both parts of this bill to be passed and receive a favorable delegation report. Thank you. Oh, and other coalitions will be giving their full support to this as well in written testimony. So look forward to it.
Thank you very much. Rain Rivera.
Right here. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rain Rivera, and I'm a freshman who attends Duval High School. I support Bill 506-21 because as a PGCPS student, a lot of matters that concern us are not for us to decide on. Having a student member of the board gives every student in PGCPS a voice on what happens to them or for them. With limited access to voting rights for this mob, students are not given the voice that they are promised. Students take a first-hand account of all decisions that are made. How can students fully be benefited if they cannot voice their opinion, even if that means including this mob on budget cuts? Yes, money is a very important thing, especially when it comes to the hands of many different people. But how can we truly have a student's voice on the board if we can't even decide where our own budget goes? We experience everything that comes with budget decisions, down to what is funded and what is cut, which mainly does involve what our schools receive, along with our programs and sports. As Henry Ford once said, if everyone is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself. We may be young, but our voices still matter. As the world continues to change and progress with more young voices making an impact, shouldn't we? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sage Lancaster.
I'm right here. Hello, delegation. Thank you for having me. My name is Sage Lancaster, and I'm a 10th grader at Eleanor Roosevelt High School, and currently I reside in District 24. The student member of the board is elected by students of PG County to represent them in the boards of education. How can the SMOB fully represent students if the student member cannot vote on all issues students care about? The Board of Education makes decisions that directly impact students every single day. The partial voting rights the student member currently has does not give the SMOB the ability to represent students on all board topics. What is the point of a SMOB if they cannot give their insight on all fronts? I have observed the board on countless occasions. I have noticed that the student voice or opinion isn't a priority, especially on the things that the student member cannot vote on. I am urging you to support this bill. It is crucial for the SMOB to have full voting rights so that the student voice can be heard and considered in whatever the board takes on. Thank you for your time, and thank you for supporting this bill.
And thank you very much. Next, we'll have Rejoice Anali.
Yes, hello. Good evening. My name is Rejoice Anali, and I speak to you in favor of PG 506-21. I serve as a member of the Student Services Task Force under the SMOB Advisory Council. However, before taking on the position, I took and am still taking the crucial position of a student in our 21st century. I am a junior at Charles Herbert Flowers, in which I am able to spend my time fully interacting with students my age, older and younger, both inside and outside school, regardless if it's inside a building or a computer. I am able to meet with the family and visit homes of fellow students. I have personal awareness of who they are, what they care for, and issues that personally affect them. Moreover, being a personal student, I am able to have firsthand experience of issues surrounding our personal education and our personal well-being at school, and the same applies to all students of this 21st century. Similar to the electoral elections, we put forward someone who we know to understand who we are and what we desire as they view issues through a similar perspective. Voters do not desire someone who they have never met nor went through the same current issues that will be discussed on the table. Voters can support with trust of fellow peers. Today, we vote and put forward a student member of the Prince George's Board of Education to ensure that our opinions are being weighed, and we have special faith and trust towards that student member because he or she still serves as a student today. Before any concerns are voiced to an adult, it is always voiced through a student, whether that be a classmate or a student's friend. That is the student member, and that is the deep insight and wisdom he or she acquires. But while there is a need for a student to voice their opinion, effectiveness comes with action. Before the Board of Education creates action concerning issues attempting for the betterment of a student's education, 9 times out of 10, the student knows what issues they themselves are going through and what specific actions need to be taken to solve their firsthand issues. Therefore, students put forward the action of a student member who they believe is able to take the action of solving their issues in the most effective way possible. Thank you.
And thank you very much. Next, we'll have Jaslyn Leonis.
Greetings, delegation. My name is Jasmine Leonso, and I'm currently a senior at Bowie High School District 23A, but I'm also president of Prince George's Regional Association of Student Governments and a former running candidate for the student member of the board. Today, I speak in representation of over 130,000 students, 208 schools, and our entire student body when I say that we need our future student member of the board to have full voting rights, and I need you guys to elevate my voice. Not only am I president of PGRAS, but I am a Honduran, Salvadorian, first-generation student. Growing up in this county gave me the experience of not only diversity, but also being surrounded by minorities and immigrants, where you see people every day stripped of their families, their rights, their very own voice, and even their life. And this past year really shed a light on that. The opportunity to vote is not only a privilege, but it's a right of the people. I see peers every day who are more educated on issues, but are never heard. I know it's not as simple as that, but if you have the opportunity and you still have your voice, it needs to be heard. So why must we constrain our student member of the board from full voting rights when every other board member has the ability to make that same vote? We, the student members, know that every future or current board member has our best interests in mind, but we need to acknowledge that there is a generational gap between us and our representatives, and we feel that it's a misrepresentation of our youth and a lack of understanding when we have this gap in between us, because these are the people who are making the decisions for us, but not currently standing in the shoes that we do. Who better to know what a student needs than our student member of the board, the physical representation and a student themselves? Our voice as students needs to be represented, and that is done by the student member of the board, but the fact that it is still being limited just goes to show that we are not being heard. If we are able to vote for the next president, I think it only makes sense that we hold the same level of respect to the power of a voice of a vote when it comes to our student member of the board, voting on the Board of Education in all aspects. Even with full voting rights on our student member of the board, it is only one voice representing thousands. With the Board of Education being comprised of 14 board members, 9 elected by their districts, 3 appointed by the county executive, and 1 student member of the board, we need our voice amplified. And our youth in this county, our youth is our future. We must treat them like it. So I ask everybody here today, our delegation, our parents, our community, to please let our voice be heard and support this bill. Thank you so much for hearing my voice.
And thank you very much. Thank you. We have Neville Adams. Mr. Adams. We'll move on to David Kahn, and you are supporting with an amendment. I don't have that amendment, so I'll just make a note of the fact that you are supporting with an amendment.
I'll be happy to describe the amendment. I have already submitted written testimony, and I will just sort of summarize it here. Citizens for an Elected Board is strongly in favor of this bill to expand the voting rights of the student member of the board. I've been observing a succession of student members for nearly 20 years now, and I've been extremely impressed not only with their competence and understanding, but with the maturity they have shown on the board. I guess my major comment about this bill is it's about time. And it will give the 130 some odd thousand students of Prince George's County a much greater role in their own education. And they've proven themselves worthy of assuming that role. There is one problem with the bill. There is a discontinuity. There is a section, paragraph 5 of section 3-102G of the education article is retained in this legislation. That section forbids the student member from attending executive sessions and hearings where the student cannot vote. I guess there's some sense to that, except we're removing most of those voting restrictions. So the student member will have to vote on items that they don't have the background for because they can't attend the sessions where the information is given. That section needs to be amended to limit it to the hearings on disciplinary action for teachers and administrators, and everything else taken out of that section. It's a very simple fix, and it occurs on page 3 of the bill, lines 12 through 15. And if you like, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to draft an amendment for that purpose, but I think it'd be very easy for your own drafting people to do that. To reiterate, we're very much in favor of this legislation and very pleased to see it being offered. I hope you'll adopt it, pass it on to the full General Assembly for enactment into law. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our last speaker is Shariksha Balachandra.
Thank you, Suchitra Balachandran again with our Revolution Prince George's in support of PG 50621. I won't address the first part of the bill because we've had so many eloquent student speakers on this issue, and we fully support where they stand on it. The second piece is the one that I want to address, which is something that has not been addressed as much by everyone, and that is the current requirement that school board members must resign from their board positions before running for any other office. This is not something that that is required of any other school board members in Maryland. It's only in Prince George's, and it's not required for any other elected officials holding any other position. Senators and delegates, for example, may run for Congress while holding on to their state seat. Prince George's has 27 municipalities. Non-partisan municipal officials can run for partisan positions, and they often do, and many of you have. The current regulation even prevents a school board member from running for a non-partisan municipal council seat. So I think the effect of this restriction is twofold. One is it reduces the competition for elected office because you restrict viable school board members from seeking other elected office. And the other piece is that should a school board member vacate their seat to run for another office, the authority to fill that vacated seat is given to the county executive. So neither of these 2 points are particularly complementary to democracy in our county. It disenfranchises people and it really ties the hands of school board members. So we strongly urge that you remove this restriction from the school board members and give them the freedom to run for whatever office they choose to. Thank you.
Thank you. I, first of all, just want to say thank you to all of our students. You did a wonderful job tonight. You are evidence tonight that our schools are preparing our students to be outstanding, productive citizens, and I thank you. You did a wonderful job. I want to start with any comments from Delegate Washington.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I thank you for recognizing the students. They did a fantastic job today. Just excited about the work that they're doing, and I have nothing more to add than what everybody else has added already. So they did a fantastic job, and thank you all for coming and continue to do the advocacy that I told you need to do after this. The work just started today, and you have a lot more work to do. So continue to do the work. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Did any other member have a comment? Well, I just want to remind everybody that tomorrow at 10 o'clock for the Education Subcommittee, the new board chair, Dr. Miller, the vice chair, and Dr. Golson, and several other members of the board will be at the committee, on the committee at 10 o'clock, and everyone is invited. So come and ask your questions. Mr. Chair, that's the end of the education report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are moving along to our last subcommittee, the Law Enforcement Subcommittee. Chairwoman Lehman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would like to begin before I move to the two bills by extending my deep and heartfelt apology to my friend Delegate Fennell. I did not mean in any way with my comments about the ethics bill and asking that it be kept in the full committee to be disrespectful of you. Please accept my apology. I served with you, Delegate Fennell, my very first year on county affairs. I know what an excellent job you do. It came out wrong. I'm so sorry. I was meaning to, I was trying to communicate that I thought that bill is very weighty, it's complex, and what I meant to say was that I think it's something that, you know, there's an argument to be made that should be kept in full committee rather than sent to any one subcommittee. I would include my own subcommittee in that because subcommittees are only 6 members. And I just think that bill is pretty complex and that, you know, we need an opportunity to ask questions about it. So I do sincerely apologize. My comments were definitely not meant to disrespect you or your capabilities. I know you are an excellent chair, so I am so sorry.
Thank you, Mary.
Delegate Fennell, you're muted.
I said, thank you, Mary. Can you hear me? Thank you, Delegate. The bill will stay in subcommittee, then go to full committee to be discussed. Thank you. I appreciate your apology.
And I thank you. I would never say anything to be hurtful of you, and I appreciate your leadership. Thank you. With that, Mr. Chair, I do have 2 bills, and I am going to exercise my discretion and take the second one first because there is only one witness on that bill. The bill is PG 31820. I put that in at the request of the College Park City University Partnership. And if Mr. Morgan could read us the summary of PG 31821.
Certainly. The provisions of the bill apply only to a license that is used for an establishment that is located on the campus of University of Maryland College Park within an area that is bounded by specific roads and intersections. The bill authorizes the holder of a BLX license to offer entertainment when individuals under the age of 21 are present if the license holder enters into a certain agreement with the College Park City University Partnership, the City of College Park, and the University of Maryland, and the lease of the property on which the licensed premises is located includes certain provisions. The bill also requires the holder of the BLX license to meet with the College Park City University Partnership Board of Directors every 6 months to review reports and security measures and to assist in improvements of community-oriented events. Finally, the license holder is required to indemnify the College Park City University Partnership for any recommendations the license holder makes to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan, for the summary. We have one witness signed up to testify, and that is Mr. Eric Olson. Mr. Olson, you have 2 minutes. Welcome, and go right ahead.
Thank you, Chair Lehman, and thank you, delegates. It's good to see everybody. So the College Park City University Partnership supports PG 31821. This is a bill that, as you heard, I mean, it does help with economic development and helps to try to make the area more lively around the arts and culture, a more thriving center for jobs. And this is a bill that was developed with Senator Rosapep and the University of Maryland, the city officials, because it was found that there are restrictions on having people under the age of 21 in a facility that offers entertainment after 9 p.m. And there's a facility here on the University of Maryland campus, which is an arts entertainment venue that has a restaurant with it. They're going to be doing a lot with, music and arts, and that would be a real problem, having restricting the ability for people under the age of 21 to eat in a restaurant when there's entertainment going on, be with their parents when they're visiting school, or if there's a recital or something like that. Even if a professor was holding something, a recital or something in the hall, that could be prohibited. We want there to be all ages area. We want to be a more vibrant area for all people. So we support this this legislation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the delegation? Delegate Valentino Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Olson. It's good to see you.
Great to see you.
Sorry, I'm scrambling to pull the bill up, so I apologize. If you could clarify, is this related to the entertainment license that we have worked on in delegation on and off? And does it change the hours? I understand you want to change the age limit of where they can go, but what, you want to be open after midnight, or?
No, that's not. So it's very limited in geography. It's only limited to the University of Maryland campus, and a limited area even within the campus. So that's what this is referring to.
So you don't want them to have to apply for the entertainment license. We can do this in subcommittee. Thank you.
Yeah, Delegate Valentino Smith, I think she might be asking about the underlying license, Mr. Olson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you do need to have an entertainment license, correct? And then you cannot have people under 21 thereafter after 9 p.m. And there's a lot of, and Senator Roosevelt made sure of this, there's a lot of security measures and a lot of things that are very ironclad in this to ensure that there will not be underage consumption of alcohol or any of that kind of thing on the premises. We don't want that at all.
Thank you. We just spent a tremendous amount of time on this entertainment license, and starting to pick away at it will be something we just need to look at for the nature of it. Thank you.
Sure. Yes, thank you.
And Delegate Ron Watson has a question. Delegate Watson.
Thank you. Thank you. And good to see you, Mr. Olson. A quick question. I noticed that the bill excludes popcorn, and we know that popcorn is the #1 seller at movie theaters. Is the intent of the bill to have more upscale movie theaters? Is that why you excluded popcorn?
I'm sorry. I don't think that popcorn has, I think that's in the bill. I think that's in the legislation. That's not anything that's in this particular legislation that I understand. I think that's already in the code.
The owner operator of movie theater has invested at least $5 million in renovating, excluding candy and popcorn. The average daily receipts from the sale of food exceed. Go ahead.
Right. So I'm sorry. That this is not about movie theaters. This is not. I believe that's existing language.
Oh, I got you. All right.
Right.
I understand. Got it.
Okay.
And is that all, Delegate Watson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I do not see any other questions. I'm going through the list of participants. Any other questions? If I'm missing, can anyone raise their hand? No? Okay, thank you. And that ends the hearing. Thank you, Mr. Olson. That ends the hearing on PG 318-21. So,
thank you very much, Delegate Lehman and all members of the delegation.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to go back to the first bill, PG 317-21. And we do have 7 or 8 witnesses on this bill. So Counselor Morgan, Mr. Morgan, again, could you read us the summary of Prince George's Bill 31721?
Certainly. The bill authorizes the Prince George's County Board of License Commissioners to issue a Sunday off-sale permit to the holder of any Class A license or any Class B license with an off-sale privilege. The bill further clarifies that if a Sunday off-sale permit is issued to the holder of a Class B license with an off-sale privilege, the holder does not need to comply with any restaurant or food requirement. The bill also clarifies the annual fees for a Sunday off-sale permit for holders of a Class A license and a Class B license with off-sale privilege, and establishes that the annual permit fees are in addition to annual fees for the licenses themselves. The bill prohibits the Board of License Commissioners from approving a license renewal for a license holder or stockholder of a corporation that uses the license in the case of a felony that is related to the operations under the license. This prohibition lasts no fewer than 10 years after the date of the felony conviction. The Board of License Commissioners is required to revoke a license if the license holder or a stockholder of a corporation that uses the license is convicted of a felony related to operations under the license. Lastly, in addition to any administrative penalty that may apply, a license holder or an employee of a license holder who sells or provides alcohol to an individual under 21 years of age is guilty of a misdemeanor, and on conviction is subject to imprisonment not to exceed 4 years or a fine not exceeding $2,000 or both.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. So the first witness I have, and I am not sure if this is in support or opposition. I don't have that indication, but that is Ms. Parker. Ms. Parker, are you still with us? And
Of course, Delegate
Of course
Lehman.
you are. You have 2 minutes. Go right ahead.
Thank you. I am in opposition of this bill. I don't think that Prince George's County as a whole or the liquor stores need any help to sell more liquor within the county. And I think that this bill does that, and I'm not in support of it. That's pretty much the long and short. The bill increases the opportunity for liquor to be sold on Sundays. I don't support liquor being sold an increase of Prince George's County on Sundays. Another thing that I would like to bring out is that we're dealing with a lot of different issues around COVID-19, and just the expanded access to liquor during this time when we know other things are going on, it could just worsen the mental health condition that we see within our county at large. And then finally, I would just like to say, and this is a no reflection whatsoever of the writer of the bill, and this is also for anyone, if this is not your shoe, don't put it on. But what I've noticed over the course of the past couple of years is that I've seen delegates put forth amendments or bills in regards to businesses and things of that nature. And then when community advocates ask that bills are put forth that would directly and substantially positively impact the community, we don't get the same sort of attention or support for our bills, or even to have a sponsor. So I'd like you to really think about that and look at that as we move forward in the next couple of years, particularly as we deal with issues around COVID-19 and things of that nature. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. And I did like your twist on if the shoe fits, wear it advice. If it doesn't fit, don't wear it, right? So thank you for that. I'm going to call the next 3 witnesses in order just so they can be ready. So the second witness is, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name, it's Mr. Spiropoulou. Is Mr. Jim?
Hi, yeah, it's Jim Spiropoulos here. Thanks, Jim.
Oh, Jim Spiropoulos. Okay,
Yeah,
the S was missing.
yeah.
Okay,
That's
good to
okay.
see you, Jim. Go ahead.
Good to see everyone. Thank you. I own Town Center Market in Riverdale, Riverdale Park, and my store is, I guess, could be considered a liquor store amongst convenience store and quasi bar. For those that were around, I can't even remember now, 5 or 6 years ago, when liquor stores were not open on Sunday, there was a bill that was passed that would have that allowed 100 stores to then open on Sunday. Back then, it did seem curious as to why 100. And that number was picked, I don't know, out of a hat, regardless. Then it was kind of a competition amongst those stores to be selected amongst the 100, which closed the door for, I think, the remaining, I don't know how many licensees there are, 130 around there. I think Delegate Washington would know. So at that point, I was a beer and wine store. I couldn't open on, I was open on Sunday, but I didn't sell liquor. Anyway, I think where we are now, it would only make sense to allow the remaining stores to open, because the ones that were around back then understand that there were some issues on how those stores were selected, and not to bring up, to open wounds, but a lot of it was done by illegal means. And some of those stores that received the ability to open on Sunday and watch their competitor across the street stay closed, it's still that way today. It just doesn't make sense. They should all open. We should all compete. I've always, testified when it comes to liquor bills. I just want to compete on a level playing field.
Mr. Sparopoulos, if you could wrap up.
Yep. This doesn't impact me at all. I'm already open on Sunday. And so I really don't have a dog in the fight here, but I think it just makes sense to allow the remaining liquor stores that are closed on Sunday to open. Thank you.
If you could just say, because I couldn't tell, are you for or against this bill?
So I would say I'm for it, but the last quick thing, back then, every store was required to spend $50,000 in upgrades to their store. I would just think that should be added on to this, just to make things equal to what happened back then.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. I said I was going to read the names of the next three witnesses. So they will be Mr. Kansal, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, from Four Corners Wine and Liquor, followed by Mr. Patel of Bell's Wine and Spirits, and then Mr. Guyand, I think, of Greenbelt Liquor. So Mr. Kansal, are you there? Are you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and you have 2 minutes. Go right ahead.
First of all, thanks, Mr. Washington, for introducing this bill. And on behalf of many retailers who were not able to get on this signing in process, they are already watching this hearing on the YouTube. And actually, you kind of, I think it's a great on your part to actually introduce this bill. Like Mr. Stropler said, that it was not an even plate. So issuing the 100 licenses, first of all, I would say that I'm in favor of this bill. I also have been operating the liquor store in the neighborhood, and then in District 47, and I have other stores which are open, and I'm not. I don't know why I was not given, but out of no reason, and so I don't know. So there are about 25, 30 stores. Reiterating what Mr. Sparopoulos said already, that those are the 30 disadvantaged retailers who have not gotten the license, and I think they should go through the same process of vetting that we did last time by having them to spend $50,000, and we should all be put on the same plate, and everybody should have the fair chance and equal chance of selling the goods. And I will rest my case at that. And on behalf of many other retailers who could not get in, so everybody feels the same way.
Thank you, Mr. Kansal. Next, AJ Patel of Bell's Wine and Spirits. Mr. Patel.
Ma'am, I don't think they were able to sign in on time, and they did not get the link. So they are watching you all on the YouTube, the other people.
So Mr. Patel is not actually prepared to testify. Is that accurate?
I don't think he's on there.
Okay, because we do have non-video participants as well, so I wasn't sure. Okay, well then I'm going to move on to Mr. And I'm not sure again of the pronunciation, Guyand of Greenbelt Liquors. Is he with us?
Let's see, that's another one. I don't think so.
Okay, these are folks that signed up late, and I was I told leadership I was fine with them testifying. Mr. Gosser of North South Liquors is.
Same thing. I think they could not get the link. They didn't get the link in the emails.
Okay. What about Mr. Is it Sharma of Liquor?
Same thing. I got the message that I was the only one who got the in before 4 o'clock yesterday. So that's why.
No, I'm sorry for the miscommunication. I do apologize. I think you delivered your message well. If that's all we have, that's all I had signed up. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, that would conclude the public hearing on PG 31721. And that is it for the Law Enforcement Subcommittee. I'm sorry, Mr. Washington.
No, I'm fine. I'm just wondering, why do I come to these meetings when I have bills if I can't
I'm
speak?
so sorry. I forgot about the sponsor. So sorry.
You know, I think this is a great bill. Look, the county executive had this bill last year. This is an extension of that. As Mr. Sparapoulos mentioned, there's a limitation to Sunday sales, which is only about 105 of them out there. We have over, we have a lot, we have a little more over than that of liquor, of establishments that will be able to level the playing field if they were to go after these licenses. And again, this isn't mandatory. They don't have to. And then they also have to adhere to a public hearing schedule as well. And so I think it's a good bill. It's plausible. These folks have been left behind for years now since we first put this in place. And now it's time to level the playing field for folks for these types of establishments, because they too are small businesses within our community and compete at a high level with any other store that could sell on Sundays. So with that, I ask for a favorable report, and thanks for allowing me to speak on my bill, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Washington, Delegate Washington, no slight really truly was intended, but can I just say thank you for that. Can you remind us, was there a bill last year, and is this back from last year?
It's a similar bill from last year. The county proposed a bill last year, similar to this one, that would just extend the Sunday sales provision. This bill increases the fine and penalty for selling liquor to minors from $1,000 to $2,000. It also says that liquor license holders who have committed a felony at their store, anyone within the store or connected to the store, that license will be revoked and removed from that location. So this puts harsher penalties to ensure that there's no nonsense that has occurred in previous years due to this piece of legislation. So I did put in different protections in here so that we can ensure that that we get rid of any ethical issues that occur within our liquor board and our system. So with that, again, so thank you for the question, Madam Chair.
Absolutely, thank you. And with that, that concludes the law. I think, Mr. Ivy, that does conclude the agenda for the Law Enforcement Committee. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, is there any other business? Seeing no other business, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much for attending tonight's public bill hearing. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. Thank you very much. We'll see you on Friday or tomorrow morning for the Education Subcommittee.
Thank you to all the students. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming.